Hello, 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 and welcome everybody to another session of Ask the Experts. Today, we are dedicating this session to the military records on MyHeritage. My name is Daniel Horowitz. I'm the genealogy expert at MyHeritage, and besides giving lectures and contacting genealogy societies, I used to go around the world in conferences, tours, but not anymore. I'm dedicated to genealogy since 1986 and had the pleasure to be the teacher and study guide editor of the Family History Project, searching for my roots in Venezuela for 15 years. Now in Israel, I am volunteering my time to digitization and transcription projects for the Israel Genealogy Research Association. And I have to admit that I am not an expert on military records, and that is why I decided to call a friend. Actually, a very good friend, an excellent friend. Is so good that he actually agreed to be here with me, and I called no other than David Lambert. David is the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogy Society, or AmericanAncestors.org, as is already known. He has been the staff there since 1993. He is internationally recognized speaker, and we met every time we can on the on the conference world. He is an elected fellow of the Massachusetts Historical Society in Boston, where he lives, or at least Massachusetts. And he's a member of the New Hampshire Society of Cincinnati. He also is the tribal genealogist of the Massachusetts Pukapogue Indians of Massachusetts, and he is actually the only person I know that has a library dedicated on his name. David, thank you very much for being here
Uh,
today.
my goodness, I hope you read my eulogy. That was wonderful. I'm honored to be here and to talk to you just in general because we can't see each other at national conferences since COVID has kind of put them on a damper for a while. And I love talking about military records. Since I was a Civil War reenactor, I've been both researching the guns and taking part in the reenactments. I'm honored to be here, and I definitely use MyHeritage a lot at American Ancestors because one of the things that we do is we have an Ask a Genealogist service, which has been very popular even before COVID, where people ask questions. So as a genealogist, not everything is accessible in book form or on microfilm. So I have a cheat sheet, if you will, of my favorite MyHeritage military databases, and I'll talk a little bit about those that I use all the time when we're doing Ask a Genealogist for my military questions. So it's really great, and you put so many things on there.
Okay, so this is, as I told you before, this is kind of a show and tell, and we do this live. So let me make you the presenter so we can go to myheritage.com. And what I didn't said yet is that David is very lucky, and we didn't plan this before, but he has the new design of the search engine. And for those of you who follow MyHeritage, Gilad actually mentioned it a few weeks ago on a keynote, and it's on our blog. We're doing some tests and experiments on the search engine, so you may see some things a little bit improved on that search engine. But David, I see you are already on the military section of the search engine, so I'm going to let it all to you.
What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to the main page and just going to show you how I get here. So I'm on my home page for MyHeritage, and what I first then want to do is I'm going to go under research. And if I go to research, I can click right here, and it gives me a few icons down below to choose from. Now, obviously for this session, we're going to talk about military records, and I think the whopping 62 million records that you have from MyHeritage is amazing. And again, like I say, with American ancestors, we have people coming into our library, we have people that contact us, and not everything that we have on the shelf or in our own databases. So we have to reach out to other websites such as MyHeritage. So this is part of my research toolkit. So I go to military records, and on the right-hand side, you can find the three components of the military records that MyHeritage has to offer. Now, it's not limited here to what you see, because there's going to be that more button, and I'll expand this in a moment. You have three topics. So you have draft, enlistment, and service records. So those are going to be your enlistment records in the military, your muster rolls, and these are going to go from the time of the Revolutionary War right on through into World War II era. So this is great. And even later, in fact, there are some things for Korea and Vietnam if you're doing American military research. There are pension records. So that's the middle section. And again, you can expand it under more. And then there are military documents. And a lot of people will think, well, I'm just going to look at the military service and the pension. You really want to look at everything. When I'm on a genealogical website like MyHeritage, one of the things I need to do is I need to educate myself. You can't walk into a virtual library like what is online with MyHeritage and just close your eyes and grab one book or just put in a name. You want to see what components, if you will, work as ingredients in your genealogy. So I want to know and create a list of those databases that I can go to and have them as hyperlinks or bookmarks on my computer, that I know that if I need to answer that question as a reference genealogist, I know that MyHeritage database will have that when I'm trying to answer and ask a genealogist or serve a patron that's in the library. So what I said about more, so if we go here, obviously with the millions of records they have for military, they're not going to fit just into these components here. This is just sort of a sampling. You click more, and then the list expands, and you can see the ones that are free. You can see the ones that are new, which is a nice component, I think, because I always want to see what's new and exciting. MyHeritage does have a great dynamic of adding new databases on a regular basis, so it's not the same stagnant thing you look at all the time. And that's why when you search in general on MyHeritage, you're going to find these matches that are going to add to your family story. We're more than just names and dates. And military records, in my estimation as a military genealogist and historian, really add to that chapter in your ancestor's life. So as you can see, I'm scrolling down here. There is many, many, many databases you can try from. And so that's just under the one component. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a search on an ancestor of mine, and he is in the Civil War. So I'm going to simply put in Charles Gale in the search, and I'm going to put in, I know he was born in 1845. Because you want to limit it a little bit, one of my ideas on databases online has always been you really don't want to put in a lot of information. I even omit middle names initially, because you don't want it to find a record that may not include the full middle name, and I'll explain this in a bit. You may not even want to put in the military place and the residence, because the record that you're looking at may not have all of those fields. Remember, these military records, the earliest ones are muster rolls with its names and a little bit of information. The later ones, like the 20th century, are going to give more information. So don't overload your search. In this case, less is more. So I'm going to go in here and now I'm going to hit search. And now it's doing a search on Charles Gale, born in 1845. Now, what I need to do is I need to go and I need to drill down into records that would be of the time frame that he's living in. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do military records. And then I find under military documents all the variety of different records that I can find. Now, I know he's from Massachusetts, so popping up as the first priority is the records of the Massachusetts Volunteers, 1861 to 65. So I'm going to click on that. And then I have here a variety of matches. Now, there's Charles H. Gale, ironically is the uncle of Charles W. Gale. So he is my great-great-grandfather's brother, and this is my great-grandmother's brother. Yes, my great-grandmother's brother was a drummer boy in the Civil War. Let's find out a little bit about him using MyHeritage. So I'm going to view the record, and I get an abstract to the OCR of it right here, the optical character recognition. It's reading the record, but I can zoom right in on this page, and this is a listing of the Massachusetts Volunteers in Company I of the 3rd Cavalry Unit of the Massachusetts Volunteers. And I go down here, and there's Charles W. Gale, age 16 years old, same age as my daughter. He is a resident of Boston. He enlisted in August of 1862, and he serves through the war to September of 1865. The other thing that I located on an unrelated database is I found an article in the newspaper from MyHeritage that actually talked about him being a drummer boy at the funerals of Admiral Farragut and Abraham Lincoln. So I was able to find even more components on him thanks to MyHeritage. Now that's dealing with the Civil War. My family is not all American. Some of my family is Canadian. And with MyHeritage, I can obviously add this record right to my tree, but I'm going to do another ancestor to show you. So I'm going to go back here in my search, and I'm going to change this up. And I'm going to this time put in my great-grandfather. Now, my great-grandfather came over from England in 1910, and then in 1915, he enlisted in World War I. So I know they have Canadian records. Let's see what I can find for my great-grandfather. Now, I need to clear this out, so bear with me here. I'm going to just go to the beginning, because I think it's defaulting to some of the set records that I had before. So go into that, to research, and I'm going to go to military records, and I'm going to do a search again. John George Lee, 1876, and I'm going to do a search. Here we go. And here's my matches here. Now, I know he's not in the United States, so I can avoid that. I'm pretty sure I know his date of birth, so it's not going to be him down there. British Silver War Badge recipient. I might want to take a look at that because that date of birth kind of works. But I'm going to look at this first one right here because that's his full name. And when I click on it, one of the things I'm going to get is a little bit of abbreviation. Now, this is actually wonderful with MyHeritage. It's going to give you the resource that it came from. So this is the record group 150 accession number, and these are from the archives in Canada, in Ontario. And this is his actual attestation paper. So I can click on the document here, can zoom right in, and this is John George Lee, my great-grandfather, born in Blakenhall, Cheshire, England in 1876. And as you saw in the commercial, in a lot of cases, you may not have a photograph of your ancestor. Seeing the signature of someone that I never knew is tremendous because it just gives me a little more of an in-depth look into who he was. So I can have that record accessible. And if I go to save record, MyHeritage already knows that I have a John George Lee with that date on there. And there's my great-grandfather with a photograph, which of course I used MyHeritage sharpening tool to do it. I haven't colorized this one yet because I just like, sometimes I like the old black and whites, but the colorization tool, if you haven't used it, that is tremendous. And then if I wanted to go in, I can continue to add the record right in there. There are just so many different databases that are accessible. And I just like to kind of discuss a few of them here. Like the American Civil War, there are over 6 million records for U.S. Civil War soldiers. For the Confederate, there are over almost over a million and a half records, as well as there are more Union soldiers and Confederates. And this is a tremendous database to search, especially if you're dealing with your 19th century family of either side of the Mason-Dixon line. There's a death index for France. So if you have French ancestors, they have a death index from the military from 1914 to 1961. There's a United Kingdom Service Medal Index. Now, one of the things being a military historian, I collect old medals. The British medals have the name on them. So with this index on MyHeritage, this isn't even wearing my genealogist hat. This is wearing my military historian and collector's hat. I can use these medal indexes that they have on MyHeritage to quickly find the identity and then do further research on the recipient of that medal. There's, of course, more medals, such as the British Silver War Badge recipients during World War I. Jumping back to American, one of the databases I like are for U.S. Navy. You can look at Navy records, but how about the naval enlistment rendezvous of the different vessels? And this covers 1855 to 1891 with over 250,000 people. One of the things that they also have are prisoner of war for World War II. So you've got those who are prisoners of the Germans and of the Japanese. Korean War casualties from the Korean War. There's also Vietnam casualties. Now, there are also British prisoner of war records held in German POW camps during World War II, over 100,000 records of those. There are recommendations for military honors in the UK that span pre-World War II and go all the way down to 1990. How hard is it to research late 20th century people, because we just don't have access to get access to regular records like vital records because they haven't been released yet. Having military databases this late is a tremendous asset. They also have U.S. Army casualties, 1961 to 81. If you have an ancestor who lived in England like mine, I have a relative, my great-grandfather had a cousin who died during the Boer War, and he's in the casualty list here, and that has over 50,000 records itself. There are also lists of partisans from Belarus during World War II, so people that were associated with Belarus and White Russia. That is going to be a tremendous collection to look at. British officers taking as prisoners of war during the First World War. There are military records itself, such as pensions that you need to look at. Now, not every war had a pension, but one of the things that I like, they have the Revolutionary War pensions accessible as one of their databases, but the one thing that you don't look at is the how and the why. Why did your ancestor not get a pension? Well, two specific pension databases here on MyHeritage include military laws of the United States relating to the Army Volunteers Militia and to the bounty lands and pensions. These are the laws to why people were getting pensions. For instance, if your ancestor was in the Revolutionary War and he died before 1818, he may have qualified for bounty land. Well, bounty land would be great. And the earlier ones, you might see BLW with no number. It says no papers, because in 1800, the War Department had a fire in Washington. And to make matters worse, any bounty lands that were created in the War Department, when the British burnt Washington in the War of 1812 and 1814, the records burned again. The Pension Act of 1818 allowed regular militia soldiers, like my ancestors from Massachusetts. Now, if your ancestor and his widow were already dead by 1818, that might be why you're not finding a pension. And then there's another database which may also answer that question,
David?
Which is, yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it seems that I and the rest of the world are only still looking at your John George Lee record.
Oh, well, let me bring that back. See, I was just listing them, so I apologize for that.
No worries.
Back to a generic screen. I'm going to pull up one of the other databases that I wanted to talk about anyway.
Okay.
So let's go into military. And see, I had to give my great-grandfather all that screen time because he's been dead since 1950.
He deserved it, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure of it. So if I go into pension records, I was talking about the military laws as one of the pensions that you can get there. I'm going to do show all. And note the Revolutionary War pension so that they have on MyHeritage are free. Military laws of the United States, that's one of the database that you can search on. And that, of course, has all the specifics on the wars. And if your ancestor was somebody who was fighting for a pension, you may find that in there. The other database that I love is this one right here, and that is for pensioners that were struck off the roll. Now, I have that as my list. I'm just going to have to find it here.
And you were mentioning me before that you actually had a relative, that you found a relative in the Belarus military records?
Well, right. I've used it before for not for myself personally, but I used it actually for a client at NEHGS in Boston. So
Okay.
when they were looking for them, and I always like to think MyHeritage has some components that are not just U.S. and Canada, and I was very surprised. And they did find, no, I don't think it was an exact ancestor, Daniel, but I think it was somebody of that same surname that was probably a cousin of their great grandmother, which
Okay.
they were really delighted to find. And that again, so yeah, the pensioner struck off the roll. That database is kind of interesting because what it does is if you got a pension in an 1820 from the Revolutionary War, you had a really large, great income coming in. You had to return sort of your financial statement. So people would be struck off the roll. Or say you weren't married to a Revolutionary War soldier long enough or early enough. You had to be married before 1794 in one case, before 1800 in another. So these young girls were marrying these older veterans for their pensions. So some of those are struck as well. Military documents as well, you need to know the stories. And one of the things, I'm going to go back to that, under military documents, you're going to find a lot of both 20th century as well as 19th century important lists. So if I go into military documents, one of the things I find is a valuable asset is the War of the Rebellion. This is a compilation of the Union and Confederate armies. Now, there are multiple volumes in here to search, or you can do a generic search on MyHeritage and see if your ancestors in there. Three reasons your ancestors might be in here. One, they may have been an officer, so they're returning reports to both the Union and the Confederate armies or navies. The other thing is that your ancestor might have done something very heroic, maybe even got a Congressional Medal of Honor, or your ancestor may have done something really stupid and he's listed in the records. So that's kind of a fun one to check as well. The other database that I use a lot, and it's for later records, because remember, we don't even have the 1950 census available, but they have U.S. Army registers from the 1920s all the way down to about 1970. And these are great because if you have an officer in the military, you can find these official registers. It tells you when they enlisted, where they're stationed, and all sorts of information. And some of them, they'll include the date of death if somebody had died the previous year. These are great to use. And again, right on MyHeritage. And the other thing that is valuable about this is you can search all of these under the main search screen. So you don't need to specifically pick a database, but I like to have them all lined up in my cheat sheet. So it's like grabbing a book right off the shelf.
And if I may, David, I really thought, like, thank you very much. But when I don't have military family and I don't have any people in the military records, and I actually thought that it was always like enlistment, service, and pension, and that's it, because this is what most of the people talk and hear about the military. But definitely you have shown us that the military records are wider than just those three. I would like just to give everybody another tip regarding the military records. And what I'm showing you now is the collection catalog on MyHeritage. And under research is the second one option right here, the collection catalog. And I'm going to click on the categories of the collections. I'm going to click military, and you can see that we have 681 collections about military records, and not all of them are US or even Canada. We have a few from Oceania and even from Europe. And one of the you would show in before, you could see also that not all the military records are paid. We have a few that are for free, and you can just use it and browse it and find your family over there. We have from Belarus, as we said before, France, Germany, Ireland, Spain, United Kingdom. We have from all over the world, including images and, again, records. And we are bringing more and trying to get more and more records all the time. Before we go to the questions, and you're all free to write your questions over there in the panel, and I will read them to David, and hopefully he will be able to answer. I have a few announcements for you, because if you know the webinars that MyHeritage has in Family Tree webinars, we still have their live webinars, 1 hour webinar for specific subjects, and the recordings are there also available for free. And I will put the URLs in the chat in just 30 more seconds. The other thing, I would like to invite you all to the next Ask the Experts. And as you can see, we already have August planned and available for you to register under that URL. And I'm going to try something new during August. On the last one of August, on the 27th, I'm going to do a quiz. So this is going to be interactive. Also on the 13th, I'm opening the mic and I'm asking you to ask the questions. Actually, when you register, you will have opportunity to fill your questions. Hopefully, I will be able to find the right answers. And if you think on a subject that you would like to see in the Ask the Experts, please let me know as well, and I will be more than happy to schedule it. The knowledge base of MyHeritage under education.myheritage.com will have a lot of recordings, videos, articles, downloadable resources that you can use to improve your genealogy knowledge, your MyHeritage knowledge. You don't even need to register. This is totally free. You just need to go there 24/7 and take advantage of that. And finally, if you have not done so, you have over there all my social media contacts, and you're more than welcome to follow me, heart me, stalk me, or whatever the social media will require. Okay, I see a few questions coming in, David. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to start reading them for you. And if you just remember the question after we close the session, you always have the frequent asked question. You can always get a hold into myself, or David also is in social media, and ask the questions over there. This Ingrid is is asking, maybe David can help us here. David, can we have more than 24 hours in the day? I could definitely use a couple more.
Well, I can tell you this much. With COVID going on, I think there's a lot more ancestors being found on MyHeritage and elsewhere, because you just have all that extra free time that we're not traveling around. I still, mind you, visit cemeteries during coronavirus, but I'm not going to libraries and archives, unfortunately. But an extended day, yes, I would love a 48-hour day, as long as I don't have to work 20 hours of it.
I can tell you in these times, what I'm finding is two types of people. Those who really do have this extra time and are doing their genealogy and are doing a lot of things at home, and people like us that in fact we're working more than what you're used to.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I'm very happy, very, very blessed for that. Wilne is asking for the databases that are not free, who receive pays, and if it's per record, per search, or per subscription to the website. Okay, very easy actually. In order to see the records on MyHeritage, you need to have either a data subscription or a complete subscription. And I'm going to try to bring, I need to be logged out of here. I'm going to bring the page with all the prices so you can see it, and you probably will see it in a second in I don't have it. In price list. Okay, that's not nice. You see, this is the problem that when would happen when you do things live. Price list. Here I have. And I will fix for you to see it in dollars in a second if you don't see it in dollars because I'm in Israel, but it's one payment only per year, and either a data plan or the complete plan will give you access to all the records. It's not a certain amount of records or a number, a limited number of records. Is all the records with one payment for 1 year with no problem. So a complete account will give you both the trees and the records. The data will give you only the records, and you may have discounts prices also depending on the season that you are. Okay, Linda is asking, both on the Jewish Records webinar and in this one, I had no sound. Okay, I'm very sorry for that, Linda. Probably you have a problem with your device. Sorry, I will communicate with you, and I know that you cannot hear me, but I will do that. Willen is saying that he or she, I don't know, I'm sorry for that, is having a complete subscription. So yes, you have all the access to the records. You don't need to worry. You just can go there and search and find all your family right over there. Okay, David, we're a little bit over the time and I don't see any more questions. Again, I would like to thank you for accepting the challenge and being my guest today and enlightening all of us about all the records that we can find under the military category.
Well, I would be honored to come back at another time later this year or next year and talk about British records or anything else that you'd like, just another angle, another genealogist giving their personal likes. And I really am honored to be here to talk with you, my friend, and all of the attendees. Thank you very much. And if you need to reach me, I'm on social media or at DL Genealogist, or I can be reached at AmericanAncestors.org. My email there is dalambert@nehgs.org, and I'm glad to answer any military questions you have, or via Daniel, or through any means of social media. So thank you and stay well, everyone.
Excellent. Yes, please stay well. Take very good care of yourself and your families. And as David and I said, just take advantage of this extra time to do a little bit more of genealogy. Goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.